Hi everyone. My name is Donna Hinkson, and I thought I'd come back online and have a chat with everybody because I did a video on spiritualism and autism, and it seemed to have gained a lot of interest, and a lot of people have asked me a lot of questions. So I thought I'd give a bit more detail into the background of how I feel about autism in the 5D and the 3D. I'll start with the 5D. In 5D, autism would have been seen in ancient times as of someone of great wisdom, someone of great knowledge. And they would have come to that person and they would have asked them advice. People would have respected them. And they usually come in the disguise as a wizard or a witch or an oracle or anyone of that sort of background with great wisdom. But now in the modern age, a person with autism, from my opinion, is now pushed to the side and considered somebody who doesn't fit into society, is pushed into the background, is expected to just be simply just there, but doesn't really contribute anything to the system, and is basically a person who never feels like they're quite fitted in, struggles with a lot of issues with things like OCD, depression, anxiety, um, agoraphobia. Lots of issues rise from it now because you feel a great loss and a sense of purpose. So I feel that I'd come out and I'd talk to people about um, autism from my point of view. From my point of view, I've struggled for many years with the issue of belonging, an issue of purpose, an issue of identity, an issue of just simply knowing where I stand and a feeling of loneliness. So I've thought I'd come on and talk to people and say, you're not alone. If you're feeling isolated and not understood, and you've been recently diagnosed with any ASD of any type, or autism as they used to call it, please feel free to get in touch with me. But I thought I'd just give you a bit more of a point of view. Anyway, from the 3D perspective, you kind of are looked at as if you're just somebody that's got this autism, and they give you tablets. They say, they see you that you can't function in day-to-day life, and you're considered someone who's just basically theirs. But I feel that yes, we do struggle with day-to-day things, day-to-day life. We can struggle with timekeeping. We can struggle with lots of information being poured at us at once. We can have meltdowns. We can have serious self-esteem issues, serious feeling of loneliness. But still, we're still a valued part of society, and we can offer great insight. And I think for me, the struggle is when you're stuffed with medication, left to perceived as not important, just simply because you can't always cope with every day. I find that for me, it's a lot to do with information. If someone was to give me information, if I was to start a new job and given information, and I didn't quite understand the information, I feel too embarrassed to ask again. Could you please repeat that for me? Because now life is very fast, and people want you to start getting information really quickly and keep up with the world as it changes. But sadly, for people with autism, they can struggle with that issue, and they can really struggle with life in general. So it can be a very difficult time and a very lonely time. So I find from the 3D point of view, we can feel quite stigmatized and seen as people that are on the fringes of society and not really of value. But I feel that once in the 5D, even now in the 5D, once we step into our spiritual selves, we become open to our gifts. We're quite receptible to the people's needs. We're quite empathetic. We feel quite emotional for people. But sadly, I don't know about for you, but for me, emotions are a very difficult one. I have emotions, but they are not like, they don't have natural sympathy and empathy for people. My emotions are they're very extreme. I get extremely anxious when people are very sad. I can pick up on their energies, pick up on their emotions, and I find it really, really difficult to deal with their emotions and their feelings. And I also can come across quite cold. But then all of a sudden I can pick up on someone's emotions that say angry, sad, feeling lonely, and those emotions can become quite strong and quite strong and quite and very difficult to deal with, and sometimes can lash out at people and come quite aggressive. But it's misinterpreted because really most of the time you just really don't know how to deal with these emotions that are coming through to you. So I have mentioned before that I hear voices, and I hear I hear people's inner struggles as I walk past them. I also feel their energies. I also get messages for them, and obviously I've told you about reining them in with Serena, and haven't she's taught me to do that. But also another thing I struggle with is understanding when it's me and when it's not me, which I've already talked to you about in the other video. But still, much more that it's very difficult to understand which part is you and which part is them. But anyway, as I've gone along on this spiritual journey, I'm starting to realize that autism is not necessarily something to be ashamed of. And it's not nothing wrong with getting diagnosed older. It's better to be diagnosed at some point than not really knowing at all. So at least you can work with it. But I have found that it is a struggle, autism, as we're labeled. But actually, if you look at it from the 5D point of view, we're stepping into our gifts more. We're understanding more. We're getting in tune with ourselves. We're becoming more alert to things. I'm stepping into my psychic abilities. I'm understanding now that there is a place for me to be able to help people, but and there is a place for me to be able to talk to people and for people to feel that you can have understanding for them. And also, I feel that now I'm trying to step into my mediumship and understand that these people that are coming through to me are loved ones, and the messages for people, and not to shy away and be scared to talk about the things that you see and the things that you feel, because society can actually make you feel quite isolated. And I don't know about you, but I felt very isolated. And suddenly now I'm stepping into myself, and I'm having a lot of support from people. People have been really kind to me about my video with Serena, opening up about my autism. And I found that a very difficult video to do, but I'm glad I did it. And now I'm doing another one now. And I know it's gone a little bit waffly, but I feel it's just me opening up and chatting to you and hoping it resonates with you, and just basically having a good chat, and just basically having time out, thinking to myself, well, for autism for me has been actually a real gift of like knowing who I am, because I've struggled for so many years not knowing who I am. But since I've become into this spiritual path and 5D and understanding 5D and really getting to understand what it's like to be me, and to respect and love, and not look at myself from an autistic point of view, but look at myself as a spiritually gifted person, it has helped me so much. So if you feel quite lonely and isolated, please feel free to get in touch with me. We could always have a chat. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's just about having someone to listen. I know that I've struggled, and I'm still struggling. Sometimes I'm struggling. I'm struggling to do this video. It's the first one I've ever done on my own in my life, which I'm going to share with you all. And I'm hoping that you will be able to give me some feedback and say, well, Donna, that was good, or Donna, you could have answered these questions for me. And I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody. I feel that that for me to cope with my autism before I got diagnosed, I went into a lot of OCD, and OCD was something that I really found a comfort from, because it was always about control, having control over something. So my OCD would make sure that I had no crumbs on the floor, no the curtains were in a particular way, my children looked a particular way when they went to school, and if they weren't, or curtains, it would cause me a meltdown because I felt like I lost control. And for me, OCD was all about control. And I think now, since I've stepped into my spiritual self, I'm finding much more control over myself, over my emotions, over my feelings. And I also do a lot of shadow work where I write a lot of emotions down. I'm looking at myself, doing a lot of self-analyzing. And I know it sounds daunting, but the truth of it is it's quite simple, because you're just writing to yourself. You're not writing to anybody else. You're just expressing your feelings. You're letting things out. And I think that's been really helpful for me. And I would like to teach other people how to do that, how to do shadow work, because I think it can help you shift a lot of things. And for me, I've suffered with a lot of triggers. I've had family phone me up and say certain things and have triggered me, and I've gone into deep, dark depressions that have lasted for days. And I look back and I think to myself, I've discovered that they were lessons I've asked them to teach me, but I found that really hard. But now I'm coming to terms with the fact that these are lessons I've asked for. And now I look at my triggers and I think, well, obviously that's the unloved self of me, the little Donna inside me that doesn't feel loved. And it's a little Donna inside me now that I'm reaching into and giving her a big hug, and we're working together to work through our wounds. And autism has not, to me, is not something that should be ashamed of. It's something that's very powerful, once and beautiful, and really lovely, and can help you really step into yourself and into your gifts. Because most people who with autism have, well, everyone with autism, in my opinion, is a very gifted soul that's just lost in the 3D matrix. And once you start stepping into the 3D matrix, you start to come home and you start to feel whole again. And you start to realize that you are a very gifted person that once upon a time would have been valued. And sadly, in this modern world, you can feel quite devalued. And I think that's a real shame. So it's nice to come onto here and talk about the fact that possibly we are and should be valuing ourselves. But this is all my opinion and how I feel. And I just thought I'd share it with you. I'm going to switch off now, but please subscribe to me if you feel this resonates with you. Ask me any questions, put a thumbs up, or just leave me a lovely comment. You're more than welcome, and I'm always here for anyone who needs me. Thank you. Bye.